He is not a one-year champion. He is not even representative of a 100-year reign or 250-year reign or whatever. He is in control of all time. He is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Jesus presents himself as that. And some people who have looked at this passage have said, well, if the other four beasts were representing kingdoms, then surely what this talks about is Israel as well. But it's not speaking of Israel. It's not speaking of a particular country. It's not speaking of that. The language in here is such that it is speaking of a king. It is speaking of a Messiah. It is speaking of a hoped-for one. And for those who want to deny Jesus, it is easy for them to try to figure out what else it could mean. But Jesus presents himself in John, as we said today, that he is a king. And that he's not the king of just Israel. He is a king for all time. A king from another place. The kingdom of heaven. The hope that we have. We see he's also seen in the book of Revelation, both in Daniel and in Revelation. They were in a somewhat tumultuous time. They were in a somewhat challenging time. In Daniel, they had gone into exile into Babylon. And Daniel, as a matter of fact, wasn't just there during the time of one king, but a time of three kings. And within his own lifetime, he didn't just experience the reigns of the Babylonians, he also experienced the takeover of the Medes and Persians, represented in Cyrus. We see that changeover in that. And that is quite the tumultuous time. Even if they were getting comfortable with what was going on, their whole world changed around them. And the hope came for them to return back to Israel. In Revelation, they had been back in Israel for quite a while at this time. And they were getting to that point where the temple was to be destroyed. That challenging time of what do we do, how do we associate. And this is written to those Christians who know that the kingdom is not a kingdom of the earth, and the hope is not a hope for one particular people, but it's for the whole world. When we get to verse 7, it says, "Look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, even those who pierced him. And all the peoples of the earth will mourn because of him. So shall it be. Amen." Daniel and Revelation are very closely linked together. They associate back and forth. If you look between Daniel and Revelation, you will see the connections of the apocalyptic language, the eschatological hopes, and the eschatological challenges that come along that way. And just like Father Colby, there are several people who really are excited about eschatological things and of destruction. And that is seen by this movie, 2012, that has just come out. This destruction of the world, that thought, how could the world be destroyed? And you know, the Mayans have to be right, they ran out of calendar space. That must be the end of the world, because they were so advanced. But some people thought the same thing, because Microsoft would surely have programmed more than just double digits if they thought the world wasn't going to end. There was a Y2K crisis because they only put in 2 numbers instead of 4 like Macintosh did. But this challenge, this end of the world, this thought of what may happen in the world intrigues many people. That's why people wanted to see the movie End of Days with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's why people wanted to see The Day After Tomorrow when it came out. That's why people have gone to see 2012, because they're intrigued. And when this book of Revelation was first presented, listen carefully. Blessed is the one who reads the words of this prophecy, and blessed are those who hear it and take to heart what is written in it, because the time is near. We are doing it today. We're starting this passage, this look at Revelation, the first 8 verses. But that is not how it was meant to be read. It was meant to be read, brought to the 7 churches. The reader was supposed to bring it to them, read the whole thing in its entirety. What we're seeing today in this first 8 verses, that's like going to the movies and seeing the previews. It's not the whole movie. It was meant to be read and to be received as a whole story, a whole account. And so my challenge for you this week is don't stop at the previews. When you get home, read the whole book. See what happens. This idea of the Son of Man continues immediately in verse 9 of one like a Son of Man to go and connect back to Daniel. Keep it together and to move on and see what happens, what is set apart, what is going to happen. It gets better. It gets better. Jesus is the King, the one who is hoped for, and a hope that is for us, and it's not just for a particular time, not just for a particular place, and not just for particular people. He is a hope for the whole world. And the thing that as we look at the world and we see all the challenges, as you may go and see 2012, and as you read through the book of Revelation, you can remember one thing that we know at the end, and that is our God reigns. Amen.